Howdy, and welcome. I decided I'm going to, as I've said in post, finish reading this book in a live video because it allows for my phone to just keep going rather than putting it on my card and everything and making shorter clips. And this is already 5, so I'm going to finish the rest of this book out, and then what I'll do for the next 2 books, the Fellowcraft and Master Mason, is I'll do those in live form and just, do them up at once. Now this part here is the presentation of the lambskin apron. Now before I go ahead and read to you about the lambskin apron, this is the lambskin apron that I got when I became a Master Mason. It comes in a nice little protected bag. I do want to get a nice box or a nice briefcase, something for, right? But I'll show you. So this is it, and it's got the long cable with the tassels on the end. Love, 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 and signed. Has my lodge and address, and then for the for my name and the dates are, I became entered on December 9th of 2014. I was passed February 17th of 2015, and I was raised July 21st, 2015. And it's signed by the Worshipful Master and the Secretary. So, real men do, in fact, wear aprons. This is lambskin. It's like a nice leather. I haven't treated it or anything with any kind of preservatives, which, maybe along the line, if other brothers have, or if there's like the Masonic Museum and I find out from them, hey, the best way to take care of this and preserve, then I'll do so. But up until then, I just keep it nice and put away, and I take it with me wherever I go, because what if something happens? I would like to have my, I want a Masonic funeral. So, presentation of the lambskin apron. Real men do, in fact, wear aprons. God bless Freemasonry. Shout out to each and every one of you. Namaste. Hope you're having a great day or night. And I hope you enjoy. I'm going to continue reading, finish up this one, and conclude Entered Apprentice. The lambskin apron is at once an emblem of innocence and a badge of a Mason. By innocence is meant clean thinking and clean living, a loyal obedience to the laws of the craft, and sincere goodwill and charity toward one's brethren. Also, that includes mankind. The badge of a Mason signifies, among other things, that Masons are workers and builders, not mere theorizers, gadflies, and intellectual eunuchs. It's E as in Eeyore, U as in Ursula, N as in Neverland, U as in Ursula, C as in Cinderella, H as in Happy, S as in Stitch. The lamb has always been a symbol of innocence and sacrifice. There are 2 senses in which innocence is being used here. Innocence, in one sense, meaning free from moral defect. The other sense is that of being newly born and without blemish, in the sense of fulfilling the goal of Masonic initiation, that of spiritual rebirth. The Masonic apron is made up of 2 parts, the square and the triangle, representing the ratio 4-3 respectively. The symbolism of these numbers, as well as their sum, should be studied in connection with the form of the apron worn in the different degrees. As an entered apprentice mason, you were instructed at your initiation on the proper wear of your apron as benefits your station in the lodge. You shall also recognize that although as a new mason you will see a number of fancy, highly decorated, and embroidered aprons worn by various Grand Lodge and Grand Lodge officers, past masters, members, and officials of other Masonic organizations. These aprons are not, to any degree, superior to, nor do they replace or substitute for that simple, pristine, unadorned garment presented to you and every other mason from the immemorial. At the conclusion of your formal first degree obligation. So you wear one of the ones at the lodge as you're going. And then when you become a master here in California, you get your lambskin apron, as I've just shown you mine. And I posted pictures of it along the way. In California, you also get a trowel, which I need to have in a shadow box. And I might put this with it. And then you also get your certificate in the mail stating, that you are a California Mason, and I got mine. So it's a nice certificate. I've shown you that. I've posted up photos of mine. Let's see, where is we is. These decorative aprons simply signify a current or past Masonic office held and worthy of respect. You should know that when any Mason is finally called from earthly labor to heavenly refreshment, when you die, he is buried with his original plain white lambskin apron, the only correct badge of a Mason. All these, my brother, is a vanity. So, with having my ring on, that's just vanity. But the correct badge of a Mason is I'll be buried in my lambskin that I just showed you. I'd also like to be put in a glass coffin inside a mausoleum. And I want a huge Masonic funeral. Next is the working tools of an entered apprentice. So the working tools presented to you as an entered apprentice were those used by ancient operative masons in the erection of a building. So we're speculative at anymore. We're not in today's times going out and building these buildings. That was more done in years ago, and we use their tools, as I've said, in plenty of the previous videos before, and we just have more meaning involved to them rather than what they do, okay? The working tools of this degree are specified to be the 24-inch gauge and the common gavel. The symbolic description of these two implements was provided to you during your initiation and are also contained in the monitor, with which will be presented in due time. So when you go and you meet with your coach and everything to begin studying the cipher and all of that, and here you go. It is interesting that one tool, the 24-inch gauge, is used passively, and the other, the common gavel, is used actively. One is a tool of measurement and calculation, while the other is one of change and creative destruction. One tool decides what to keep, while the other gets rid of what is superfluous and undesirable. To the speculative Mason, these tools represent the moral habits and forces by which man shapes and reshapes himself. By the proper use of these symbolic tools, he also better fits his own behavior to society and community. While they do not contain any whole philosophy of Masonry, so it's like these two tools, they're not all of them, dude. You'll learn more. And I've already introduced you to one beforehand, too, the trowel. I did a nice little piece on that. Let's see, where did I leave? While various working tools allocated to the 3 degrees by their very presence declare that there is always constructive work to be done and indicate the direction this work is to take. You are charged to care for your tools like any good craftsman and keep them bright with use. So you need to keep reflecting on them. You need to keep going over their meaning and, just so you're using them all the time, you know what I mean, so to speak. The right of destitution. The symbolism of right of destitution traces its origin to those ancient times when men believed that their planets determined human fate and controlled human passions, and that there were metals by which each planet was itself controlled. In ancient initiations, candidates were compelled to leave all metals behind, lest they would bring into the assembly distributing planetary influences. So that's why we're divested of all minerals and metals when we receive our degrees. And that includes nail polish. You can't wear anything. No jewelry, no nothing. You take it all off, dude. The candidate, or any other Mason for that matter, is not to bring into the lodge room his passions or prejudices, lest that harmony, which is one of the chief concerns of Masonry, be destroyed. You are also taught an object lesson in Masonic charity and told that a Mason, should you ever in the future observe another brother in need, it is your indispensable duty to relieve him to the extent that you could do so without serious injury to yourself. This is a very serious obligation, one that is at the very heart of Masonic philosophy. Now that means for a brother in distress, such as myself for an example, being homeless, unless it injures you, you were to go to great lengths, whatever the length may be, to reach out and assist me or whoever the case would be, right? To help us. So in my case of being homeless, brothers are supposed to help me. It's a part of their right. It's my right. It's a part of our obligation and our duties as brothers to be there to help each other. That's how it's supposed to be. Now this last part here, you will learn a great deal more about Masonic relief and charity in the future degrees. For the moment, simply remember that brotherly love, relief, and truth are the 3 core beliefs or tenets of Freemasonry, and act accordingly. So you will always see a lot of different pictures and stuff if you Google Masonic images or Freemasonry images, You will see things like the square and compass, and you'll see next to a lot of them brotherly love, relief and truth. And God bless Freemasonry. So the northeast corner. The northeast corner is traditionally the place where the vital cornerstone, or the first stone. So when you're building a building, it's that very first stone. It's going in the corner. And we have a huge thing with all the brothers and everything, and we lay the first cornerstone of a building. I have yet to see my first. I intend. And in my lifetime, I intend on seeing a whole bunch of these laying of cornerstones. And I need to see the ones in Washington too. Yeah. Okay, a cornerstone must be set square and true, or else the rest of the fabric of the building will be out of plumb and unsafe. The new entered apprentice is thus here placed because from here he will have his personal cornerstone set true and square by the master of the lodge, that he may begin to erect his own temple by the principles of Freemasonry, and further that he will be in close proximity to the master so as to better receive instruction and guidance as befits a young mason just entering the craft. So you're pretty blessed to have the master come around and, be the one to be showing you these things and teaching you what they are, The north in Masonry is attributed to darkness and the east to the light. So that's why you'll always hear, or you'll hear, brothers on light, travel east, things. We are travelers. Therefore, the northeast is placed midway between darkness and light. And by midway, it is also symbolic of equilibrium or balance. And furthermore, this spot representing equal light and darkness corresponds to the spring equinox, when the length of the nighttime hours is equal to the length of the daytime hours, regarded by ancient people as time of rebirth, new beginnings, and growth. Now the Holy Saint St. John's Day is in the summer. It's June 24th, and St. John's Day in winter is December 27th. And they were adopted by the early Christian church in the 3rd century as a way to attract people to the new religion and yet preserve old pagan traditions and feasts of the summer and winter solstices. It was the custom of the craft and for the craft and merchant guilds of the Middle Ages to adopt various Christian saints as patrons and protectors, usually due to some real or imagined relationship to their particular trades. The operative stonemasons, which is like ancient times, dude, were among many guilds which adopted one St. John or the other. Somehow or another, we Masons ended up with both St. John the Baptist and St. John the Evangelist. And so according to Masonic traditions, Freemasons come or hail from a lodge of the Holy Saints John's in Jerusalem. These two venerable Christian gentlemen are represented in every lodge by a central point, which is you or me, right? Within a circle, which is your world physically and spiritually. So you'll see a circle with a dot in the center, and then there's just the lines on the outside. Separated by two parallel lines, the Holy Saints John acting as your guardian and guides, surmounted by the volume of the sacred law, which is of your faith. So if it's the Bible or, the Torah and Quran, whatever, there you go. Like I said before, there's 14 that have been currently approved, but run it up, buddy. Now, King Solomon's Temple. Rest in peace. Much of today's Masonic ritual is symbolically based upon certain legends connected with King Solomon and the first temple at Jerusalem. So yeah, and it does say right here the biblical passages, but yeah, there's a lot that is very biblical in what we're going through. We're not a religion, but it does have a lot of religious overtones or undertones, however you want to, spell it out for yourself. And they are Christian here, as you can see. So, the biblical passages regarding building and specifications of the Great Temple of Solomon will be found in the first book of Kings, chapter 5 through 8. So if you pull out your Bible that you have at your house with you, if you happen to have a Bible, you can look all this stuff up. Okay. And the first book of Chronicles, beginning with chapter 2, the Temple of King Solomon was built atop a giant stone outcropping in Jerusalem, which according to Jewish traditions is the center of the universe. The importance of stone is pervasive in religious thought. Referencing connecting stones with the gods reach back to the earliest times as evidenced by the many prehistoric Stone Age monoliths. Stonehenge, and pagan stone circles found today in Europe, Great Britain, Ireland, and elsewhere. And dude, I have yet to go over that little pond, and I really want to see your stuff, man. Like, that rocks, but bump. It really does, dude. I totally want to see all that stuff. And charter a yacht off the Greek Isle. Why not? Because I heard that one time, and now I want to do it. So, the stone has been considered by some religious historians as being an archetypal image representing absolute purity, the physical and foundational aspects of all things. There are numerous references to stones throughout the Bible which allude to a link between the stone, the sacred, and the spirituality. In Isaiah, so we're getting more stuff to do with the Bible here, which probably tells you where Satan is. Isaiah 28:16, it reads, "Therefore thus saith the Lord God, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation." In Psalms 118:22, the stone which the builders refused is become the headstone of the corner. And in Revelation 2:17, to him that overcometh, well, I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth. We as modern Freemasons, that means like today, right? We're taught to work and building in spiritual stone so that we might, like Solomon, build a worthy temple to our God and create out of the rough stones of our previous selves these smooth, square, and perfect stones needed by the deity, which is God, for his use in constructing that temple, the house not made by hands, eternal in heaven. So we try to be better than we were the day before, and we look at the, like I've said before, the rough ashlar and the perfect ashlar. One is like a smooth, cube, and the other is rough and everything. So you get rid of all your superfluities in life, and you chisel away to make yourself better and more perfect into that little cube, so that God can take your and build you your pyramid. You are, there you go, dude. You know what I'm saying. The lecture of the first degree. The lectures given by the master or virtual master to the candidate at the conclusion of his first degree are intended to explain certain aspects of the ritual, giving a broader explanation of the ceremonies in order for the candidate to better understand the lessons of Freemasonry. For example, the 4 cardinal virtues of temperance, fortitude, prudence, and justice are explained, as are the 3 main tenets of Freemasonry, which are brotherly love, relief, and truth. The metaphysical form and dimensions of a Masonic lodge are explained as follows. The form of a lodge representing, as it does, a replication of the great Temple of Solomon, which you read in your Bible. That's what we're doing, Anon. And is an oblong square or rectangle It extends from east to the west, which is the horizon to horizon, and between north and south. The covering of the lodge in its canopy of heaven, it is not a coincidence that the two major patron saints of the Masonic Lodge have their birthday feasts near the summer and winter solstices, respectively, where the sun reaches its most northern and southern limits. The east in the Masonic Lodge does not necessarily mean the actual point of the compass. The east in the lodge is a station of the worshipful master from whence he dispenses light and instruction to all his brethren. Some lodges actually have the master sitting in another compass location. But the important point is that the master is always symbolically located in the east. And the other symbolic points of, west, south, and north are located in proper relation to that station of the master. So if it's not physically sitting, in the east, dude, let's just pretend for a mad moment and we'll place everything else around it. We'll call that the east. So here you go. Another didn't drink, my mouth is getting dry. Further instruction to the candidate for any of the 3 degrees is usually given in the long form of the lecture regarding the supports of the lodge. There's long and short. I'm sure you can gather you recite your long form or the short form. And I'm not too sure if they've stopped doing short form or the long form at this point. I've had to do mine in long form, and I know a lot of the brothers before me, they've all done theirs in long form. So, who knows, right? I'm going to lean against this real quick as I read. So, and shout out to my Molly crew. And shout out to the devil. Shout out to the devil, Molly crew. Okay. Let's see. Let me go back. Further instructions of the candidate are given in the 3 degrees, usually in the long form of the lecture regarding the supports of the lodge, which there are 3 pillars, and that's wisdom, strength, and beauty, which also relate to the 3 immovable jewels of the lodge, the square, plumb, and level, which also relate to the 3 principal officers, the master, senior warden, and junior warden, and the 3 lesser lights of the lodge. The 3 movable jewels of the lodge consist of the rough ashlar, the perfect ashlar, and the trestle board, which is what we brothers get every month, either in the actual regular snail mail or, in virtual form online. I get mine online anymore. And I think our lodge is only going to do the paper form in the mail for like the older ones that don't have, a computer or something, or the smartphones. But I think all of the rest of us are actually doing the electronic form now. So your trestle board every month tells you what's going on for the month. And, if there's birthdays, and I've never had my birthday mentioned, and like talking about the holiday or things like that, Now, the rough and perfect ashlars are symbols of the process of Masonic initiation, where I'm getting these words out of my head. As we work to shape and form our moral, ethical, and spiritual lives from the imperfect to the all-perfect. So we just try and be better than we were our day before, okay? The trestle board contains the blueprints or plans relating to how we are to create positive changes within our life. The ornaments of the lodge consist of the mosaic pavement, the indented tessel, tessel. I almost said trestle for a minute. Still going on the trestle board, right? And the blazing star. All of these symbols should be studied further to find out what they conceal and what they reveal. So you reflect on the things that you learn, you look them up some more, you learn all about your tools, and that's how you're using your tools and keeping them nice and clean and, sharp. All new Masons, you're going to have questions about the meaning of new ideas and experiences, including the lecture of this degree. Ask your questions of your coach, mentor, or any other master Mason in your lodge, and this exchange benefits everyone. Very true. Because it keeps us as master Masons like, oh yeah, dude, and, so we don't forget. So it keeps our tools fresh and sharp. Now the Masonic charge. At the end of ceremony and instruction for each degree, the candidate is charged or admonished to perform his particular Masonic duties. The charge given him explains these duties, especially in their relation to the particular degree. The charges are to be taken seriously, very seriously. Sorry about the background noise. As they outline the duties of the Freemason. The old Masonic charges, most notably in the form of the Regis manuscripts, a Scottish document which dates from approximately AD 1390, specifically delineated Masonic behavior and violation of its rather strict provisions was a serious offense which could result in the expulsion from the guild, loss of your livelihood, and very possibly starvation of your family. Who knows if that actually happened or not, dude? I don't know. But don't give me any crap for it, and don't give my brothers any crap for it, because, dude, we weren't there. We had nothing to do with it. Like, come on, man. Give me a break. I'm just trying to better myself, just like all our Mason brothers are, man. We're just trying to make our lives better. Like, if something bad happened in the past. Okay. The egregious charges contained advice on all manners of public behavior, professional deportment, ethics, religion, and history mixed with the legend, etc. Sections of the Regis manuscript include the moral duties, 15 articles, the moral duties, 15 points, the 7 liberal arts, and admonishment about Mass and how to behave in church, and finally an instruction on good manners. Okay, and that all goes back to 1390 AD. I'd like to read those. So if any of you brothers out there do have any copies at all of the Scottish documents from 1390, dude, I'd love to check them out. And I would be all about reading them to you guys if, you guys would like. I think that would be awesome, and I would love it, dude. Yeah. I would like to, at some point, take a trip and, to Ireland and a few other places, right, and meet my brothers around the world. But I do want to go and see the actual Bulbridge Square and have the brothers over there show me where it was taken out of the bridge and, so on. But I'd like to show all of you that, later on down the road, I got enough crap to deal with now, come on. But I think that'd be great. Now, very little was overlooked, and woe betide the Mason who violated these instructions and embarrassed his lodge. Sorry. The kids are home. It's a snow day. And, we're all getting hammered with snow outside. Those old charges are the direct forerunners of the Masonic charge that today is given verbally to every Masonic candidate at the conclusion of each first degree, or at each degree from the first to the third. Some Masonic jurisdictions outside of California also have general charges, which are read or otherwise delivered to the assembled brethren during the formal closing of the lodge. Masonic charges, or more appropriately, or properly, Masonic instructions, are not to be confused with being brought up on charges, okay, of any Masonic, un-Masonic conduct, which is an entirely different thing. Okay, and although serious and repeated violations of the former might very well result in being charged with the latter. Now, the duties and rights of the entered apprentices. The duties of the entered apprentice and fellow crafts include the diligent study of the symbols, lessons, and history of Freemasonry, and working to satisfy the advancement requirements to demonstrate their proficiency. Their rights are very limited and are described by the California Masonic Code as following, and that's 23090. Entered apprentices and fellow crafts. So it goes up until you're a master, okay? So it's your first and second degree that they're talking about right here. Entered apprentices and fellow crafts, first and second degree, have only the right to sit in the lodge in which they receive the degree or degrees, which open in the degree taken by them. So if you're an entered apprentice, you can go to the lodge you are in now, and you can watch other people receive and become entered apprentice. Once you become fellow craft, you can do that with entered and fellow craft. And then once you become a master, you're encouraged to sit and watch all three over, as many times as you want or can or something. They're beautiful. I love them. I'd like to sit in all of them, dude. Let's see. Taking right of advancement here in Senate Factory, passing the district examination of the lodge. Okay. They may, with the consent of the master, visit another lodge working in the degree taken by them. And if accompanied by a master mason who has sat with them in open lodge and vouches for them. So if you want to go to another lodge and see one that you're allowed to see, if you're an entered, you'd see entered, and you know what I mean, then you would have to have someone of your lodge who has sat with you to go with you and vouch for you. And they have to be a master, or above. They are not required to pay dues and not entitled to vote or speak in lodge. They may be buried with Masonic honors upon the request of their family. Neither they nor their widows or orphans are entitled to relief from the lodge, and that's only when you become a master. You're, at that point entitled to all the rights and benefits of Freemasonry. And once again, I would like to state that I am a California Mason, and I do indeed want to have a Masonic funeral. Thank you very much. They shall not exercise any control over lodge funds for charity or for other purposes. So you can't go and act like the secretary for a day if you're not made a Master Mason yet. You know what I mean? Come on, give me a break. You don't know what you're talking about yet. An entered apprentice cannot vote or hold any Masonic office. So you can't pretend you're secretary for a night because he hasn't shown up yet. You know what I mean? You can't vote on whether someone becomes a Mason or not, or you just have very little things you're allowed to do up until becoming a master, and then you're allowed to do it all. He is, however, an entered apprentice, that is, entitled to a Masonic funeral in the event of his passing into rest. An entered apprentice and his immediate family are not entitled to organize Masonic charity, but this does bar him from receiving assistance from another Mason as an individual. Now, he can attend his lodge when an entered apprentice degree or first degree of instruction is being presented, like I've said. He may only attend his first degree at another lodge, providing that a master mason from his home lodge accompanies him to vouch for his Masonic status. I said that too. The entered apprentice is also an absolute right to be properly instructed in his work and in all manners pertaining to his degree and advancement. The basic instruction is the responsibility of the master of his lodge, the candidate's coach, his Masonic mentor, which is your coach, and at the end, every master mason in his lodge. So if you're entered apprentice or fellow craft, you can go to any master mason in your lodge, including your coach and whatever, right? But if you see some dude sitting there and he's a master mason and you want to ask him questions, you can, dude. However, it is first and foremost the responsibility of the individual candidate to pursue his advancement in Masonic education on his own time and in whatever form will accomplish and reduce the required proficiency and knowledge needed for his advancement in the craft. Now let me read that to you one more time, okay? It is first and foremost the responsibility of the individual candidate to pursue his advancement and Masonic education on his own time. So instead of trying to study while you're at lodge, wait until you get home, dude. And in whatever form will accomplish and produce the required proficiency and knowledge needed. So however you need to study, it's telling you right here, you are allowed to study. Okay? Just don't be doing it with your family or friends or whatever, because this, take it seriously. You want to have pride in what you do. And unless it's somebody from your lodge, you just don't want to be like, will you help me study? No, man, you want them to look at you like you have some secret going on, so they can look at you like, ooh, who wouldn't want that, An entered apprentice is entitled to apply for advancement to the second degree of Masonry when proficient in the entered apprentice degree without prejudice. So if you're able to do your first degree proficiency, you do it. You set up the appointment and, the night for it, and you go in and you do your proficiency. There you go. The same thing with the other ones. He may not receive the degree of craft masonry elsewhere without consent from his current lodge. So if I'm a California Mason, and right now I'm here in New York for a moment. I'll be leaving soon, but still. If I wanted to give my proficiency here, I would in fact be allowed to do that. I would just let, my lodge know, and they'd set it up through Grand Lodge and through the lodges, here, and I'd be able to do. But there's the lodge kind of kitty corner across the street. They don't operate for Masons anymore, and that really depresses me and saddens me. So if you're any of the brothers that can help in getting this lodge back up and getting some brothers back into the lodge here in Unadilla, New York, please do so. Because the next time I come back here, if I do, I would have loved to have been here this whole time and hanging out with my brothers from this area. Wherever I go, dude, I'd like to go to a Masonic Lodge and check you out and, meet the brothers. I'm a master. I'll bring my, dues card showing you I'm paid up. Ask me your questions, whatever, right? But I am all about visiting other lodges. I think it's great. You want to meet your brothers and get to know your brothers from around the world, Also, the entered apprentice possesses modes of recognition by which he can make himself known to another Mason. Finally, if an entered apprentice Mason should be charged with violating his obligation or with high crimes and misdemeanors involving moral turpitude, or other unmasonic conduct, he is entitled to a fair and impartial trial under the rules and regulations of the California Masonic Code, including review of his case by the Trial Review Board of the Grand Lodge of California, or wherever you are, dude. I'm, California Mason, so that's what it's saying here. Now, your proficiency and advancement. Now, before I read that, you're supposed to wait a year after you become a Master Mason before you attempt to go any further asking, can I sit in the chair and become worshipful master of my lodge, that kind of deal. You're supposed to wait at least a year before you even sit in any of the chairs. And you're supposed to wait at least a year before you go on to something like Scottish Rite or whatever. And, it was described to me as being offensive if you do it beforehand. It's like, whoa, yeah. And there you go, So, nose itch, I just shaved it. Prior to advancement to fellow craft or second degree, every Mason in California must be able to answer certain questions and reach the required level of proficiency in the work of entered apprentice degree, or your fellow craft degree, which is second, or your Master Mason, which is third, and it just goes on from there. So the proficiency requirements will be explained in detail by your assigned candidate's coach, your Masonic coach. Masonic formation representative, the senior warden of your lodge, or the senior warden of your lodge, right? The purpose of the requirements is to teach each candidate the language of Freemasonry, which I've already gone over. Fix in his memory the teachings and structure of the degree we're working on, and impress upon his consciousness the different points of the obligation, and to reach the value of our ancient methods by learning and contemplation. So you don't just want to memorize this, you want to commit it to your mind, body, and soul kind of deal, Don't just try and get this over with. These are things that are going to help you along your way throughout life. Take it that seriously. The more you take Freemasonry into your heart, the more you're going to be able to be a better Freemason to someone else. So, the purpose, the questions must be answered to the satisfaction of the master, and it is highly encouraged that the candidate read his answers to the essay question in open lodge in the form of a brief formal presentation. And then it gives the questions. So your mentorship, okay? Because I'm just going to pass over that part, whatever, become a Mason, dude, and you'll be given the questions, which is covering what I'm reading. Here you go. You do have to do an essay. I have shared with you guys my entered apprentice essay, and I got a little slack from someone for wearing a ring. I'm like, hello, like, you don't get that was in the past, and you didn't listen to me or something? Every new entered apprentice needs guidance and assistance, and he will ideally get this guidance and from his Masonic mentor, which is your Masonic coach. Most lodges will assign a learned brother to this important task of ensuring that the newest member of the fraternity has the proper tools and encouragement to realize his full potential as a man and a Mason. So the mentor's broader role is to aid the new member in developing meaningful bonds with the fraternity in general and to the brothers of his new lodge and in particular. Also to help answer your questions and really help you to cement what we are learning and trying to implement, into you. so that you'd be able to sit with somebody later on when it's your turn and you're a Master Mason and someone comes to you and asks you questions. Some lodges present new members with various Masonic books or other materials to help them develop an understanding of the lodge's philosophical and intellectual interests, which I have and I'm reading to you. The books may differ from each candidate depending on his level of knowledge and previous experience with the symbolic and philosophical subjects. By assisting each candidate early on in his pursuit of knowledge and self-improvement, the lodge endeavors to develop within him a lifelong interest in Masonic formation. The California Masonic Code. Now, this is just for California. But the California Masonic Code is, it won't be for long before the new entered apprentice Mason will hear reference to the California Masonic Code, or CMC. The CMC is simply the governing rules and regulations of the Grand Lodge of California, and such binds all California Masons of whatever degree to those same rules and regulations. Now, most provisions, except landmarks, of the CMC can be changed, deleted, or amended by the vote of the members of Grand Lodge. So if at any point they want to change things up a bit, Grand Lodge is able to do that. The individual Masons of California. Every year at the annual communication of the craft, which is held in San Francisco for California, this democratic process takes place in open forum available to all California Master Masons in good standing at the time of their meeting, usually in September or October. So as long as you're a Master Mason, your dues are paid, you know, you've got your card, and you're all paid up and everything, you're able to go. If you can get up there and blah, blah, blah. Masonic landmarks. In ancient times, man marked the boundaries of his fields by means of stones or cairns. C is in Cinderella, A is in Ariel, I is in Iago, R is in Ratatouille, N is in Neverland, S is in Stitch. If these markers or landmarks were removed, men could no longer identify the proper and lawful boundaries of their property, which there's some in Washington too. I really want to see, down by the water even. Hence, landmarks are those particular marks or customs by which we are able to designate our inheritance. So, land, you know what I mean? In the case of Freemasonry, they are called the landmarks of the order or craft. The obligation signs, tokens, and other words of Masonic ritual. Other landmarks include the entire ceremonies of initiation, passing and raising, and the ornaments, furniture, and jewels of the lodge, or their characteristic symbols. I'm reading way ahead of myself at the same time. However, these landmarks are defined in various Masonic jurisdictions. They are considered inviolate and may not be changed by a statute or vote. Thus, in California, the guiding principles are contained in the CMC, the official ritual, and the old ancient historical landmarks. So when you keep something inviolate, it's, you know, it's very important, okay? I know I've had people ask me that before. Now, the history of Freemasonry, with difficulties, competing theories, and the purpose of its study. There's a difference between what is often referred to in the ritual as Masonic tradition and the actual history related to the order. While the term Masonic tradition can imply many things, from the association with other initiatic rites to certain older Masonic customs or practices for which we have no formal pedigree or provenance, it is most often used to mean Masonic mythology when used in modern ritual. Now, while most societies and spiritual traditions have certain mythologies about their founding, um, these accounts and descriptions are usually impossible to prove and now serve only as a symbolic purpose, because you can't really say, yes, this happened on this date, blah, 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 you know. Um, the ancient mystery schools of Egypt, Greece, and the Near East certainly influenced the rituals that became part of Freemasonry. Many of these ancient rites were designed as tests, and admission was granted only to those who passed and were worthy of further instruction. Masonic rites have some of the same elements, though probably of the less physical nature, um, while still maintaining the spiritual form. There are more notable points of similarity between Freemasonry and the society founded by Pythagoras and the fraternity of Hermes at Hermopolis in Egypt. Hermopolis, whatever. There are also Infinites and the Hellenistic mystery schools of Isis and Osiris, the Dionysian, Orphic, and Eleusinian, or whatever, mysteries of the Greeks, and the Mithric mysteries of ancient Rome. Now, the word sticks out in my head is Isis, right? And I'm like sitting here trying to like be, oh my god, dude, I can't believe I just actually read that word, even though it's in there. Because right now in our time, you don't really want to read something that's Isis, that word, because people are just going to freak and assume that you mean ISIS. And that's not it, dude. Two different things. Two different peoples, if you wish. So, other groups that carried on similar traditions include the Jewish sect known as the Essenes, from which some believe John the Baptist came, the Roman College of Artificers, and organization of builders that Marcus Vitruvius Palio, under the Emperor Augustus, led in the 1st century, and the Commission masters, who flourished at the fall of the Roman Empire, are two other societies from which we claim kinship, which is real or wishful, as the case may be. Now, the last group provides some direct, if tenuous, links with the cathedral building epoch of the medieval period. So we did actually have brothers building these great cathedrals in medieval time. The Masonic connections of these great schools of the past and other similar organizations is flimsy and clouded in the obscurity at best, but nevertheless, a study of them yields deep insights into the rituals and symbolisms of Freemasonry. So, I mean, like, pretty much, dude, we're all just taking bits and pieces along the way throughout history, and every religion does it, or mystery school or whatever, because Freemasonry is not a religion. It just has religious over or undertones, you know. Like John, I've read a lot of it too. While Freemasonry is often described as having emerged in 1717, when 4 London lodges joined to form the Grand Lodge of England, which I've told you before, goes back years before that. Its traditions, symbols, and lessons can be accurately traced to pre-modern times. The academic study of the history of Freemasonry is exciting and interesting, but also a highly and very often hotly debated field, and one that every Mason is encouraged to pursue in his ongoing Masonic journey. So you learn stuff, and it's up to you. If you want to learn more, you pursue more. History of the Grand Lodge of California, for any of you that might be interested in California, and the history of the Grand Lodge here. During the gold rush of 1849, thousands of settlers came to California in search of a fortune. They were digging for gold, dude. Those who were Masons brought their rich traditions with them, soon establishing some of California's first Masonic lodges in the mining towns of the gold country. So that's way up north, dude. In 1850, the same year that California became a state, the Grand Lodge of California was established in Sacramento. Now today, the Grand Lodge of California has more than 64,000 members, which is when I got these books, and over 300 lodges located throughout the state, making it one of the largest Grand Lodges in the world. We had a really big concentration of brothers, and the 64,000, there's a lot more than 64,000 brothers right now in California. I'm not too sure on what the number is up to yet, but this is back in 2014 when I got this. The history of the Grand Lodge of California is inseparable from history of state of California. So I mean, like, I just read the year that California became a state, we started Grand Lodge, bam, and we have developed. Look at the Masonic timeline. You'll see a lot throughout history, not just for California, but look at things in the Masonic timeline and you'll see which brothers have helped with which things throughout history. It is because of these people and Masonic history and everything that we have banks and, that we have education and so on. For all these people to go to school and have money in the bank and all of that crap, And even with the cars that we drive, like, our brothers are the ones that developed cars so that you guys could have a car and sit in and, yell about because it's going crappy over the years. We're the brothers that handled that. And pretty much everything. We don't have control over everything. We do have control over, some of the more important things. And we should, by what we're doing, have control over everything, really, because you don't want someone dumb in office that can't read or tweet. You might want a Mason. Now, we're reading here in the last page. And then we're done. Those same brave pioneers who came west in search of wealth, fame, and opportunity came to bring their beloved fraternity and all of its entails with them. In some cases, bringing Masonry to the new frontier was the primary purpose. Grand Masters of Eastern jurisdictions issued charters to Western-bound sojourners, giving them to right to work, in lodges in the Wild West. So they were allowing people to go out west in search of gold and a better life and start, building lodges for all of us brothers. And like I said, there's over 300 of them here in California alone. Other Grand Masters issued dispensations, giving groups of Masons who were found themselves in the Masonic wilderness the right to meet and organize as California Masonic lodges. That's what I just said, dude. In 1848, gold was discovered near Sutter's Mill, and that's up in Northern California. Word quickly moved eastward, and men accordingly began moving out west. It's such a long and difficult and dangerous journey to get out there. Read all about that in history, and while you're a kid in school, you're going to learn all about, going out to the gold rush. Let's see, men seeking their fortunes knew that to go it alone was an invitation to disaster, because that road out there, they had to make the roads to get out west. There weren't any train tracks at that point. That all came years later. It was just going through the woods, and you're the first ones to build a path, to get out west. Accordingly, they banded together into traveling parties. Um, all of you should know all of this, really, about California and the California Gold Rush within the history of the United States government. Um, so when I was in school, we used to have a class called U.S. History and Government, and that's where we learned all about the California Gold Rush and people like the carpetbaggers and all of that stuff. Um, that's what we're getting through here, okay? Now, it's not surprising, therefore, that many prominent leaders of this new frontier were members of the fraternity, because people looked up to us, and they always will. Um, with the number of Masons and the prominence of the craft played in their lives and the lives of others, the obvious action was to create a Grand Lodge of Masons in California, and soon, as the opportunity arose, we did. April of 1850, Masons in California attempted to form the Grand Lodge. Invitations were issued to all Masonic lodges and all past Grand Lodge officers in other jurisdictions, like throughout the U.S., you know what I mean? Known in California by sending delegates to a convention. At this convention, a new Grand Lodge was to be founded. On April 17th of 1850 in Sacramento, 3 chartered lodges presented their credentials, and the 3 lodges under the dispensation sent delegates, and bam, we had a Grand Lodge. So anything after this is famous Freemasons, because there's a few things like, the glossary, notable Masonic temples, and things like that for, all of us Masons to get used to for California, because when you're an entered, you're getting to learn things, and you want to learn about the state of, that you're in. So for me, it was California. Famous Freemasons. I got this, and I became a Mason in 2014. I really don't think I'm on the list that they're talking about here of famous Freemasons, but I know I am now. Not maybe with that book, but I am a famous Freemason, and I'm all over the internet. You can find me, and I'm quickly becoming one of the more famous of Freemasons for our time. God bless Freemasonry. So we do have a glossary right here, which is a couple of pages. And I have been reading to you the Masonic glossary of all the terms and everything, and I'll go back to doing that at some point. But this is just a couple of things out of what I read. So if I've read something you didn't quite understand, feel free to look it up. Otherwise, just give me a bit and I'll go back into doing the Masonic glossary, because there's an A through Z that I have complete full dictionary of Masonic terms and everything, and that I've been going along, and I've kind of ventured off into other points for the time being, because I like to read from my tablet while I'm recording with my phone. So that concludes the Entered Apprentice Candidate's Guide. That's what you learn when you become an Entered Apprentice, which is your first degree of Freemasonry. And this is for specifically California. Now, in other states, it would be a little bit different. I'm sure, maybe not, but I know in some of them it is actually different. And some of the states don't always end up with, your Masonic certificate when you become a master, and I know that ours did. I know a lot of places throughout the world, they don't have a Masonic certificate, and we're given one. So once again, real men do indeed wear aprons. This is my lambskin, has everything on it. Once again, I'll read you my dates. I became a California Mason with the Bellflower Lodge number 320 in Bellflower, California. On December 9th of 2014, I became an entered apprentice. That's your first degree of Freemasonry. Your second degree is called passed, and I was passed to the second degree February 17th of 2015. And your third and final degree, becoming a Master Mason, I was made a Master Mason, which is called being raised to that of a Master Mason, on July 21st of 2015. It is signed by my worshipful master and our secretary at the time. They don't stay in that chair for more than a year unless your lodge is short or whatever, and they're going to do it again. I'd like to be a master, the worshipful master of my lodge, and I'd like to stay that way the rest of my life. But no, that doesn't really happen. So this, I can take my apron anywhere in the world that I go. And it is always encouraged that you have your own apron, because what if you go to a lodge and they don't have one? So you know you've always got yours, but you want to keep it in its bag, in your case or suitcase, briefcase, and you want to keep this as nice and clean and pristine as possible, so that when you die, you can be buried with this on. And again, I will be having my Masonic funeral, and I will be buried with this on, because I don't want to be cremated. I wish to be buried. I want my own glass coffin inside a mausoleum. I want my guitars there. I want all my awards, everything. All my posters on the wall, all of that inside my own mausoleum. So I do indeed want my Masonic funeral when I die, which is why I brought this with me. Because otherwise, going through the crap that I've been going through, I would have left it back home in storage so that I knew it would be safe. But you never know if you're going to die or not, so I want to have it and be prepared for anyone else. So wherever I go, like when I got here, I told my cousin, okay, I do have this. If something happens and I die while I'm here, this is where this is, and, you know, I don't have my trowel with me, but, you know, I need this for when I die. So having a Masonic funeral is glorious. It is more than just a funeral, you know, where some people come to mourn you. It is, you know, a very big deal in society to have a Masonic funeral take place, and it is a huge spectacle to see, like just a grand moment. Anytime you ever are allowed to see anything involving Masons and what we do, and we're all dressed up in our regalia, do it. Go to your nearest lodge, check it out, man, because throughout history, this is something we've been doing since ancient times, and it really is amazing to actually witness something like that. Even if you don't intend on becoming a Freemason, if you're allowed to just watch something that we do where we're dressed up, run it up, because it's something you'll never forget in your entire life. But if you have no intentions of becoming a Freemason at that point, there might be something wrong with you. Your elevator might not go all the way up, because it's that intense. You're going to want to become a Mason and be a part of something that big and special. So I hope all of you have had a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Namaste. Please feel free to subscribe. Sorry about the background noise once again. Subscribe, share the videos around. Thank you very much for your time, and I will do maybe tomorrow or something, you know, start going over the second book. Hello. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Hi, Eddie.